thank you for joining us for our Bible study as we continue our venture of learning and study in 2022. Remember, in our previous Bible study, I challenged you to resolve, certainly to commit yourself more to studying of the Word of God. Not only at the beginning of the year, because we all resolve to do much better at the beginning of the year, but it doesn't last. But I've asked you to make a permanent and lasting commitment to study the Word of God along with us throughout the year 2022. With this in mind, that when we get to December 2022, the end of this year, I will guarantee that you will see fruit spiritually that has manifested itself in your life. Not promising you that you won't experience some joys and sorrows, some heartaches, some pains, some laughter, some sadness throughout this year. But I will guarantee you that if you stay with the Word of God and study the Word of God, allow the Word of God to feed and to nourish your soul, I guarantee you that at the end of this year, you will find that you have grown stronger and that maybe things that you couldn't handle on last year, you're able to handle in a much better way this year. So Bible study is all about growth. It's about our growing in the Word of God, but it's also about our growing in dealing with real situations that exist in life. And that's really what we want to do in our Bible studies here at First Baptist Church, North Tulsa. We want you to certainly become more knowledgeable about the Word of God, but our knowledge of the Word of God must help us deal with the real life situations that we all face. So that is our goal. Our Bible study on tonight is going to come from the Old Testament. It's going to come from Genesis chapter 32. I'm going to focus on verse 29 just for our reading, but we'll be looking at a passage that covers really from verse 22 to verse 32 and deals with the Old Testament patriarch by the name of Jacob. The Bible study is entitled The Power of Desperation. The Power of Desperation. And so as we turn to Genesis 32, and again, I said we're going to focus on verse 29 and verse 30. Verse 29 says, Then Jacob asked him, Please tell me your name. But he answered, Why do you ask me your name? And he blessed him there. Jacob then named that place Peniel, for I have seen God face to face. And he said, Yet my life has been spared. The power, my friends, of desperation. C.S. Lewis, who is someone that I've quoted quite often, I want to quote him again. C.S. Lewis says this: God cannot bless us until he has us. When we try to keep within us any area of our life, we prevent God from being able to bless us. Therefore, God in his love, he lays claim to all of us because there can be no compromise with God. What we're going to find here with Jacob and what we want to apply and what we want to see in all of our lives is this: God cannot bless us until he has us, right? I wonder, have you ever been backed into a corner? I will be the first to admit, yes, I've been backed into a corner, and it is not a very comfortable position. Have you ever felt that you were in a situation that there was no way out of that particular situation? I'll raise my hand again, and I know there are others who are raising their hands and saying, yes, Pastor, I've been in a situation that I cannot get myself out of. That's a very uncomfortable position to be in, to feel that there's no way out, there's no way to turn, almost on the brink of giving up hope because despair has just mounted and mounted and mounted to the point where you feel like you cannot get out or you cannot see your way through. Jacob, the Old Testament patriarch, the grandson of Abraham, who we are studying, the son of Isaac that we're studying on tonight. Jacob was a master of maneuvering his way out of tight corners. Now, I need to put a caveat there because Jacob there is like many of us. Many of us, we have learned the art and the skill of maneuvering our way out of so many situations. In fact, many of us have gotten ourselves out of so many situations that we're really playing Russian roulette with life. We've become more daring. We become overconfident in ourselves because we've skirted through some situations. We've gotten through some things that we know we shouldn't get through. And so we become very skilled and very crafty at maneuvering ourselves out of situations that we, if we'll be honest, situations that we have created for ourselves. Jacob was a man who had learned to maneuver himself out of situation after situation. In fact, you'll find, and it says in the Old Testament, that in Hebrew, that name Jacob means trickster. He was a con artist. He knew how to fool people. Jacob constantly tried to wiggle and squirm his way loose from certain situations. But one day, and this happens to all of us, one day it caught up with Jacob. It caught up with him. He was not skilled enough to slip out of the grasp and out of the hold of God. And all of us must understand and realize that there will always come a point in our life where we cannot maneuver ourselves, we cannot outskill, we cannot get ourselves out of some tight spots, some tight corners, some tight situations. And so that by definition becomes a very desperate situation. But I want to help us to see how we can get power in our desperate situations. Now, I read Genesis 32, 29, and 30. But as we look at 22 through 32, just in summary, again, we know that Jacob was the grandson of Abraham, the son of Isaac. We know that Jacob, as he was running from some of his mistakes, some of his bad decisions, he came across an area where he met up with what found out to be was his uncle Laban. And Laban had a well. He met some young ladies there, Leah and Rachel. While he was there with Laban, he obviously loved Rachel. He told Laban, he said, look, I will work and do as much as I can to have Rachel as my wife. Laban agreed and consented. And so Jacob worked 7 years, but then at the end of that 7 years, he was not given Rachel, he was given Leah. So the trickster was tricked, right? So after realizing that he was tricked, he told Laban, he said, look, I'll work another 7 years, but I've got to have Rachel. And so he worked another 7 years, and he wound up having both Leah and having Rachel. But the point is, the trickster wound up being tricked. But then we found there became a dispute between Laban and Jacob over land, and some had been accusing Jacob of possibly taking some of Laban's wealth and inheritance and misusing it and maybe embezzling and doing some wrong things. And so Jacob had a target on his back from Laban. But then we also know the reason why he was running to where he met Laban is because he had stolen his brother Esau's birthright. And not only had he stolen his birthright, he had just not been very good, open, and honest with his older brother Esau. And so Esau was on his track. And so when we get to this point in Genesis chapter 32, we see that Jacob is in a situation where all of his trickery, all of his maneuvers have caught up with him. And so he laid down to rest. I mean, he was exhausted. You know, whenever you are running, right, from your past, running from mistakes, running from shameful situations, you get tired. Not only physically tired, but mentally and emotionally tired. So Jacob at this point was physically tired, he was mentally tired, he was emotionally tired, because he was just tired of running from situations that he had caused. So when he stopped to rest, it says he was met by a man that wrestled with him. He wrestled with him until the breaking of the day. Jacob And this man were wrestling this angel of the Lord. And Jacob, the story goes, it says that Jacob says, I'm not going to let you go until you bless me. And it says that Jacob was injured in that wrestling match, in that scuffle, to where his hip was taken out of joint, and he would have a limp even after that. But yet, the angel of the Lord, or the angel, told Jacob, because you have wrestled and because you have prevailed, I am going to bless you. And it says at that place, at Peniel, it says that Jacob's name was changed from Jacob to Israel. But it also says at that very place that Jacob was a man who was blessed by God. Jacob was like a lot of us. He had learned the ways of the world. He knew how to scheme to his advantage. But now, as I said, he is between a rock and a hard place. He is in a very precarious situation. Behind him, as I said, was Laban, which means there was no turning back. Ahead of him was Esau, and that was not appealing either. It's never fun when you're in a situation where you don't certainly know you can't go back and you can't go forward. You're just stuck in the position that you are. And my friends, that is what we call a point of desperation. But we'll often find that getting to a point of desperation, or God brings us to a point of desperation by a process. If you find yourself in a very desperate situation, dire situation, you didn't just get here overnight. There's been a process, right, that leads to us being in these very desperate situations. Because we live and because we are people of the moment, we don't look at the processes. We don't look at the cycles. We don't look at the chain of events that leads us to the point of being in a desperate situation. But when we look at the life of Jacob, we see there was a process that led him to this point of desperation. So Jacob, again, as he was wrestling with God, this was a defining moment in his life, because, many times we can think that we are wrestling or running from the Labans in our life, or maybe running from the Leahs and the Rachels and the Esau's in our life. But in fact, it's really not those people that we're running from. Often it's God we're running from. God trying to get our attention through people, through processes, through circumstances. And so Jacob realizes that God is the one that he has been running from, and that becomes a very defining moment in his life. I've had some defining moments in my life, and a defining moment is simply a transitional moment, a moment, that kind of aha moment, that wake up moment, when you realize what I've been doing has not worked. Let me try something different. And this is where Jacob is at this defining moment in his life. And so in this defining moment, we see that Peniel is this place where Jacob's past goes to die. And we all have a Peniel in our life, a place where we need to go, where our past can go to die. Now, Peniel in Hebrew actually means the face of God. And what this basically means, at this particular place, this defining moment, at this juncture in his life, Jacob comes face to face with God. He's been running from problems, running from people, running from circumstances, but he comes to realize that really, in order to fix this, I've got to face God, right? And many of us can think that we can really deal with things in our life without facing things, but there's nothing in life that can be fixed without being faced. And so Jacob, he comes face to face with God. Manly Beasley says that a glimpse of Jesus will save you, but a gaze at him will sanctify you. It will change you on a regular basis. And so Jacob, here at this point in his life, he is leaving the old behind. He's leaving Laban behind. He's leaving his name behind, because his name is changed from Jacob to Israel. He is leaving his past behind, and he enters a new place in life and a new experience with God. For many of you, as you face those desperate situations in your life, there may be some names, there maybe some people, some situations in your life that you need to leave in the past. You need to have that defining moment, that defining place where you enter a new phase in life and move into a new experience with God. You know, often we look back at our past and we feel ashamed. And we look ahead to the future and we are afraid. And that's a very uncomfortable position to be in. We know that we've done some things that that we feel shameful for, that we feel guilty for. So we really don't like to look back. We don't like to recollect our past because we feel ashamed. But on the other hand, we don't want to look forward because we feel afraid. Well, the only way to deal with any one of those is to stand face to face with God in our present and allow God, my friends, to change us. When we get desperate enough for God, we can get through to God. I want to say that again. When we get desperate enough for God, we can get through to God. The significant thing about this place is that it says it was there that God blessed him. And look, I don't know where your there is, but God knows where your there is. And so, listen, don't run from where God is taking you, even if it's uncomfortable. Don't run from maybe the low places and the valleys in your life. If that's where God is taking you, if that's the journey you're on right now, just know that God is leading you to your there. He's leading you to that place, just like Jacob, where God can bless you. But notice, it's the power of desperation that positions us to be in that place where God can ultimately bless us. So, in looking at this lesson, know that the power of desperation, just like in Jacob, can lead you to the place where you can get through to God and God can bless you out of your predicament and out of your situations. My friends, it has been a joy to share this study on the power of desperation with you on tonight. I thank you so much for being viewers virtually of our Bible study. We welcome your comments. Let us know you're here. Let us know you're viewing. Let us know where you're from, where you live. We love to hear from you. Haven't said this in a while, but I do want you to let us know maybe what your needs are. We want to pray for you. Matter of fact, our church ended the year with a powerful prayer service. We want to pray for you. So if you have prayer requests, please send us your prayer requests. If you desire to support our ministry, we certainly offer a number of platforms and opportunities for you to support us. It is because of your gifts that we're able not only to continue to do what we do for you virtually, but to minister and outreach to those certainly in our community. I do need to give a PSA, and unfortunately I haven't had to do this in a while. We are seeing that this Omicron variant is certainly escalating and rising all over our nation. And so we have to do our due diligence. I'll be one of the first to admit that at the beginning of 2020, March of 2020 for that year, I was very diligent about wearing my mask, right, about social distancing, about washing my hands. But as things started to get back to normal, we all got a little lax. But it's time for us to be very diligent about mask wearing, social distancing, right, washing our hands. And certainly if you have not been vaccinated, I want to encourage you to get vaccinated. I've had both shots, had my booster shot. I want to encourage you to do the same as well. I invite you again to continue to join us in our Bible studies. You're welcome to join and view us with our Sunday morning worship. As always, if you live in our area, come and visit with us for in-person worship. And then we certainly love to bless you each and every morning with our 1 minute spirited devotionals. I also want to encourage you, we have some ministry highlights that are being shared about various aspects of our ministry, what our various ministries are doing. So if you should decide to support our ministry financially, you can see some of the things that we are doing from a ministry standpoint. God bless you, my friends. I pray that the remainder of your evening is certainly blessed, and I look forward to seeing you on next week.